This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Every year I do this, I want to make sure I'm getting better at it. I want to make sure that I'm adding to my bag, right? I want to make sure that I'm doing stuff that separates me from the competition or from the sea of other people doing this, right? Like I want to stand out in a way. And one of the ways that I have decided to focus on this year, or one of the things that I've decided to focus on this year, is doing more series, right? So I'm doing the 2023 rewatch series. So shout out to y'all if y'all been following along with that. Check out the playlist on the home channel if you haven't, so you can catch up. But what I'm doing today is a new series. It's something different than what I've been doing. And this is going to be what I call my answer to the NFL Top 100 for Browns fans. This is the Cleveland Browns Top 25. Now, what is the Cleveland Browns Top 25? It is my projection of who is going to be the most 25 effective players on the Cleveland rosters for the upcoming season. So let me say that again. It's my projection of who is going to be the most effective 25 players on the Cleveland Browns roster for this upcoming season. I'm not talking about who the top 25 players were or who the most effective 25 players were last season. Since this series is happening in mid to early July, since this series is going on and it's starting in mid-June and is going to go all the way till early July, I thought it'd be better to focus it on this upcoming season versus ranking what happened last year. But that's what this series is going to be about. It's going to be in a playlist similar to what the Browns 2023 rewatch series is. But I'm going to be ranking the best 25 players or the most useful 25 players on the Browns roster for this upcoming season. Now, also, let me make something clear. Being a top 25 player is inherently a good thing. I'm not going to say that somebody being ranked on this list is a bad thing. I will offer areas where I think that a player does things well and where a player can get better and why a player isn't necessarily as high on the list as maybe some people hope that they can be. But these are going to carry a general positive tone of the players being covered in the video. It's my way of being able to like kind of zoom in and appreciate what every important player on this team brings to the table and then be able to show you guys, hey, this is what this player brings to the table. And this is the kind of stuff that I always set out to do, right? The stuff that you're not going to get on a mainstream national or mainstream local level. Like this is the stuff that I've always wanted when I was growing up as a Browns fan, from the coverage that I would see on television or see on the radio. And this is my opportunity to do that. So without further ado, I've explained why this top 25 series exists. Before the series starts, I do have some honorable mentions that I want to get out the way. These are players that I think have the chance to contribute, but I'm not 100% confident how much they're going to contribute. The first guy on this honorable mention list is Jerome Ford. I have gone on record by saying this. Look, I am not as low on Jerome Ford as a lot of people on the internet seem to be on Jerome Ford. I think Jerome Ford is a useful player. He is a good player at times. Jerome Ford, for the Cavs fans in the audience, is very similar to Caris LeVert. For those of you who don't watch the Cavs, let me explain who Caris LeVert is. Caris LeVert is another incarnation of like what J.R. Smith used to be, but Caris LeVert is a guy who can come off the bench and out of nowhere have a 40-point game. Caris LeVert is also a guy who can come off the bench, play a bunch of minutes and score 2 points and have one of the worst games imaginable. I think him and Jerome Ford are very similar. There are games where Jerome Ford comes in and he runs for 140 yards and he looks like the future at running back. There are times where you run Jerome Ford 10 times and he got 12 yards. Jerome Ford is somebody who is a good player, but he's not a good player to rely on, right? And I think that's the big issue with Jerome. Jerome will have a game where he goes off and he has a couple of big runs and you're like, yeah, man, we should use Jerome Ford more. And then there will be times where you're like, damn, I wish we weren't running Jerome Ford as much. He's just inconsistent. He's hard to rely on. And that's why I think he makes more sense as your third running back than your first or second running back, because you got to rely on those two guys, right? But when Jerome Ford is in a position for you to just reap the benefits of having Jerome Ford and maybe use him more depending on how he's playing in that game, maybe use him less, he's good. But when you have to rely on Jerome Ford is when the issues start to become obvious with him, which is what made it difficult to rank him in the top 25. He was on the cusp of being ranked on this list. Jordan Akins, look, I have high hopes for him, but not high expectations based on what he did last year. He just has to have a better year than he did. He was very disappointing last year. Jameis Winston is another honorable mention. The reason Jameis Winston is a honorable mention is because he's the backup quarterback. And there's really no guarantee he's going to see the field at all. And you can't be a top 25 most impactful player if you don't see the field. And that's why Jameis is there. Michael Hall is somebody who I have on the honorable mention list just because he's a rookie. The Browns defensive line room is incredibly deep. We have multiple edge players that go inside, outside, on top of having like legitimately 5 defensive tackles in rotation that we want to use. So who knows how much time Michael Hall is going to get to be effective. But if he does get the opportunity, I'm confident that he will be effective. I just don't know if that opportunity is going to exist in year one for him. They might want to focus on him just getting stronger. Jack Conklin is on the honorable mention list, and that is because I don't know how much Jack Conklin is going to play. He's coming back off of an injury. He's probably not going to start at right tackle. I don't know what the future is for Jack Conklin and how the Browns are going to use him, which puts him on the honorable mention list. Ronnie Hickman, DeAnthony Bell, they both did a good job of filling in at that safety position for Juan Thornhill and Grant Delpit when they were out. The problem with them and the problem with ranking them in the top 25 is, again, the Browns secondary is really deep, which means there's no guarantee DeAnthony Bell is going to get an opportunity to play if there's no injuries. There's not a guarantee that Ronnie Hickman is going to get an opportunity to play if there aren't that many injuries. If they're able to play and they play at a high level, we'll see what happens there, but really no guarantees about either of those two players. And then the last guy on the honorable mention list is Alex Wright. This close to being ranked. And look, I might regret not ranking him at the end of the day. Like, this was a real debate because I think Alex Wright has a ton of upside. I think he is so close to realizing it. My issue is I just don't know if the snap count's going to be there. Right? Like, yeah, he's going to get time in behind Miles and Za'Darius. He might move inside, outside, but they have so much talent on the interior and exterior of that defensive line that I just think he's probably going to be more in a supportive role. He's going to be asked to kind of hold a lot, like kind of just hold ground on a lot of stunts. So I don't know where Alex Wright is going to be going as far as like his immediate effectiveness, if he's going to get the opportunities to be effective. If he does, then I think he will be effective. But I do think that would mean one of these guys that are ranked in the top 25 would have to drop out of effectiveness, right? Like there's just not the snap count there. There's just not the opportunity there for me to say that this person is going to be one of the 25 most effective players on the team. And that's just kind of where I fall on this one. There are two other players that I do think should be on this honorable mention list. They're more special teams than anything. It's Ronnie McLeod. I think Ronnie does do a lot of small things very well. It's not going to be the most effective, super visual things, but he is somebody I do want to add to this honorable mention list. And Corey Bojorquez, the punter for the Cleveland Browns, is somebody that I think is going to be around the range of the 25 most effective players here. Really the only special teams guy that I can really throw in the honorable mention. I think the only other guy is Dustin Hopkins, but he's going to be ranked on this list. But yeah, Corey, he's a pretty solid punter. Sometimes he's a little inconsistent with his hang time and all of that, but he does a good job of making sure that the Browns get, at the very worst, good field position on defense, which again, when you have a Browns defense as good as they are, anything helps. And, you know, if you can get good field position on top of that, that's super helpful. So yeah, Corey Bojorquez does belong in the honorable mention. I didn't want to go this whole series without mentioning him. So yeah, definitely gotta give him a shout out as well. Where do guys rank for you? Are you excited for this series? I am. I love doing new things. I love trying to add to my creator bag and add different series, especially during the off season where there's not a ton of news to carry you know, the video cycle. But that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.